it's I am here for the Hawaiian International Film Festival, and I'm here because I was lucky enough to work on 4 movies that are playing the film festival.
Wow.
And I work in post-production sound. So when people come to a film festival, a lot of times you'll have the filmmakers, people who made the movies, of course. You'll have just film goers, people who live here, who go to see the movie. Sometimes there's people from out of state or who don't live here who come just for the film festival, just to see the movies. And then there's people who worked with the filmmakers and directors on their team and who go. What's that?
A lot of mixed.
Yeah, you have a good mixture of people. You've got, local people and then filmmakers and people who've worked with them. And I was lucky enough to work on 4 movies, so I figured I've never been to Hawaii. I worked on 4 movies.
Although you live in California.
Though I live in California, yeah.
So this is the first time?
First time, yeah. So I figured, okay, there's 4 movies playing at the film festival. I should go and just support the directors. So the 4 movies I worked on are something called Sing China.
Sing?
Sing, about the Los Angeles Children's Choir and a trip they took, trip and tour of China where they performed all around the country.
If you say you did the sound for them, what exactly does it mean?
Okay, so let's go through the 4 movies and then let's come back to that question.
Good.
Okay.
Let me just write the 4 movies.
All right, so Sing China, that same filmmaker made a movie called Whotada, Whatada.
I'll probably find it because I have a
Okay. Yeah. Then I worked on a movie called March of the Living, which a lot of it takes place in Poland.
Okay.
Wow.
And then I worked on a movie called Wasteland.
All right.
So I was lucky enough to work on those movies on their post-production sound.
So.
And what is post-production sound? Okay, so when filmmakers make a movie, whether it be, and these are all documentaries, by the way.
Oh, cool. I love documentaries.
When March of the Living is playing tomorrow night, I think, if you're free to go, it would be cool to go. March of the Living.
What is that about?
March of the Living is a documentary about high school students from all around the world. Over the last 20 years have traveled to Poland with Holocaust survivors and visited certain concentration camps with the survivors who actually live there.
Oh, wow.
And it's a way of passing on these survivors' stories, who in 10 or 15 years, these people, there will be no living survivors to pass along the story of what happened at the Holocaust. So it's really a very touching movie about one journey of these 10,000 kids every year go with these survivors. And the survivors are very brave. So if you get a chance, tomorrow night, March of the Living, please all come tomorrow night at 8.
Great,
so
thank you.
Post-production sound, after they film a movie, whether it be a documentary or a narrative or story movie, it goes into post-production and they edit the movie. And then once they edit the movie, that's a part of post-production, but they turn it over for sound post-production. And we add in sound effects. And we make sure that the dialogue is as smooth and as clear as possible. Because otherwise it's a little rough, and it will, if you don't edit the dialogue, which we call it dialogue editing. If you don't do that, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. There'll be bumps in the soundtrack. It will take you out of the movie because you'll hear clicks and pops.
Oh yeah, like the old movies.
In the old movies, or dialogue is recorded in different places whenever they're making a movie. And every place has its own ambiance. Like right now we're sitting in a room that has fans going for the air conditioning. Well, if this was a scene in a documentary and we were shooting here and then we were shooting another scene in another location, you'll hear the fan and then not the fan, and then say we cut back to this thing. So you want to try to smooth all of that out. It's almost like, I guess the best way is if you're writing a paper and you're writing on a pen, you type it up so that there's no mistakes. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
You know, or anyway. So when in any of these movies, whether it be documentary or narrative, which tells a story with actors and characters, they all go through this process of dialogue editing. So that's what we do in post-production sound. We work on the dialogue so that it's really smooth and clear. We add in any sound effects that might be needed. Because sometimes they'll film something without any sound. Right now we're recording sound. In a movie, maybe they don't have time to record sound. So later on, we've got to create what that should sound like.
Oh, wow. May I ask, is it you guys that also add, for example, that sound?
There's something called Foley, where we record footsteps.
Yeah.
Usually in documentaries, in many documentaries, you don't record Foley.
No, that's true. It's
But,
just movies.
but in narrative movies, in almost every narrative movie, you record footsteps, you record cloth. Like you can hear, you probably aren't picking up the sound right now, but this, I can hear a sound, and we can hear a sound here. So all that is added in later. Because on the set, we record sound on the set, but that's really just to concentrate on the dialogue. That's the most important thing. And we want to minimize everything else, and we'll add things in later. Because what happens is, once you get all these sounds,